what I like about the game of chess as I'm learning and developing. It it encourages you to remember how you felt the last game you lost and how that I'm not going to let that happen again. And then it happens again, but it doesn't happen the next game. It happens the game after the next game, right? And so that's the part where I really enjoy the game because it forces me to pay attention to all the details and triple guess myself whenever I'm making a calculated move.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm alive, Odie. What's going on?
Awesome, awesome, awesome. How's your week been? How's it been since last time we spoke?
I started uh I started learning the game of chess for like the past 3 weeks. I think I've been aggressively trying to one, learn how to play the game, and then two, delving into what tactics, strategies, and all these other considerations are.
Hmm.
And I mean, that's a brief summary of what I've been up to. And also been like enjoying the surge of subscribers that we've been experiencing since we've had John A. DeGoes on our platform. So big
Yeah,
thanks to
yeah,
him.
yeah. Big thanks to him too. It's been really helpful for our channel, and we really appreciate all the new people coming to join us. So yeah,
Yeah, very
sounds good.
briefly, John A. DeGoes was featured in our last episode on the business of the Scala language. So check out the details of that video here or
Yeah,
there
here.
or wherever it's pointed at. So
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Okay, and yeah, speaking of which, we saw a comment from a viewer that was very interesting. I would like to read out. It was from our video on functional programming is no better than OOP. Functional programmers react.
here's a comment by OrginUK, or maybe it's Orig in UK or Orig in
I think
UK.
it's Origin UK.
Origin UK. Oh, there you go. So Origin UK, he provided a comment on the show that we had. FP is no better than OOP, aka object-oriented programming, and that was our reaction video, Odie, with Dave Farley. And
Mhm.
so I had some very strong opinions reacting to that video. Uh, and Dave Farley, kudos to him for providing a platform for to share his opinion and for us to criticize it, or at least me. So that was an engaging video. If you want to view the video, viewers, then check out this item right here, wherever my finger is pointing, and you can check that out. So let me go ahead and read it, Odie. It says,
Okay.
love this analysis and exchange of words. Bismunker is part of a big brain camp. My brain is very small. If a design, software, operations, tests, etc. fit inside my brain, then it works. If there's too much abstraction, obstruction, obfuscation in the intent of how to solve a problem, it won't fit in my head. And it's very likely the problem could be solved in a much simpler way. Over-engineering, purism, pragmatism, simplicity, performance, statefulness, and complexity are all important. It's crucial to understand that everyone should know about the obscure nuances of coding makes it harder for coders to think differently when following through the code. It's probably best to accept that everyone has some kind of experience, knowledge, wisdom, or not. Odie's perspective feels more honest, experienced, and genuine. Well, what about mine? But okay. Well done, guys. Dave's been really brave to lay down the gauntlet and express his opinions based upon his previous experience.
Mm.
Thank you, Origin UK. We appreciate you sharing your opinion on the comment section, and yeah, Odie and I we're gonna move forward with introducing new videos with thoughtful opinions or information shared by our viewers. So Odie, what do you think about Origin UK's comment?
Well, yeah, it was a great comment. Um, I my takeaway from it is I think that's one of the things we strive for is to say that we, even when we disagree, right, even between you and I, right, or we disagree with whoever it is we are reacting to, it's not really out of like malice or anything like that. It's really genuinely, you know, sharing our opinions, saying our own perspectives, because there are multiple perspectives in software engineering. There are multiple ways to look at things, you know, and having that conversation leads to the synthesis of new things. So I remember telling you, you know, when we first read the comment, I remember telling you, Scott, that languages like F sharp, for example, came out of that discussion of OOP versus FP, right? There was a lot of clash between those two camps. And then you had this like synergy coming out where people figured that, hey, you know, maybe OOP isn't all that bad. Maybe there are things we can learn by having objects in a language, and vice versa. Oh, maybe there are some good things that functional programming has, and then using that to build a new hybrid, right? So yeah, thank you so much, Origin UK, for that comment. We really appreciate it. And yeah, so on to, you
Well,
want to
I
say
was just wanted
something?
that what I captured from Origin UK's comment
Mm-hmm,
is what I believe is the reality of software development or developing software. it's there's a lot of things to keep track of. He
mm-hmm,
mentioned the complexity of statefulness, performance, um, making sure that you're conscious of purism, pragmatism,
mm,
simplicity, over engineering.
yeah,
You're working with different people that have different incentives while they're on the
mm.
project, right? That's what, give me the name of Jamie Edwards, right?
Jamie Edwards, yeah.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm,
when he shared that comment, I couldn't help but consider what I've been practicing for the past 3 weeks, learning and practicing the game of chess, in which it kind of resembles some of the things that he was saying, and I couldn't help but dwell on the parallels of the game of chess and developing software and everything that you have to keep track of, the cognitive load, the stress that you're under. And maybe we should have a discussion about that, Odie.
yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Maybe we should start with how I got into chess, because okay, I got into chess in 2018, 2018. So that's roughly 5 years ago. Wow. Yeah, 5 years ago. That was around the time um AlphaZero, Google released the AlphaZero project. And what that was the first time people used machine learning to build a chess engine. And in a lot of ways, you could say that a lot of the things that we're experiencing today with ChatGPT and all the AI stuff came from those experiments that were made. And I remember being so shocked by it because I know that many of the top chess engines, you know, required so much engineering effort to pull off, and breakthroughs were usually very incremental, right? Getting better and better chess engines was getting harder and harder until Google just showed up with this new AlphaZero and just totally destroyed Stockfish, which was the highest open source chess engine at the time. And one of the things that got me interested in chess, and this is, you know, going back to the whole relationship with software engineering, was I remember most of the chess commentators, like grandmasters and so on and so forth, were all shocked by the games that AlphaZero was playing. They were shocked by its patterns. They were shocked by its tactics. Like it was, you know, like out otherworldly, if you will. And I remember watching some of these games and not fully appreciating or even understanding, you know, what the big deal was. So that was around the time I started the whole journey. You know, I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to learn about chess. I'm going to learn how to interpret chess, how to learn about strategies and things like that. And just, you know, I wasn't planning to become a grandmaster or a title player or anything like that, but it's something that I said, you know, this is something good to learn. So one of the things I started asking myself was, in a world where AI takes over, in a world where AI is far smarter than humans, right? What would that world look like? How would human beings interact with each other? How would we value human input, right? And for me, I saw the world of chess as a good analogy to that. What happens when even the best player in the world is no match for a computer, right? How does that influence the understanding of, what we think is an art form? Um, yeah, so that's how I got into chess. I've been studying it for a while, and I at least I know enough to be able to understand some of the nuances of the games, and I can see how those the games from AlphaZero were like mind blowing, or I can appreciate a good game of chess now because I have a little bit of understanding of it. So that was always my goal, never to become a grandmaster or anything like that, but just be good enough that I can appreciate, a high level game of chess. I can say, oh, that is good. It's almost like jujitsu, for example, right? If you see two jujitsu players, they call them players, two jiu-jitsu players rolling with each other. If you are to the untrained eye, it just looks like two men just rolling around. But if you speak with someone who is a practitioner, who is experienced in it, they can point out subtleties that you won't see, right? And those subtleties help you appreciate the game more. So that's how I got into chess.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and I asked ChatGPT if it could write some paragraphs, a few paragraphs, on what the similarities are between chess and building software.
Hmm.
And well, since ChatGPT kind of automates content generation, I just went ahead and just published it on my blog post on bismonger.wordpress, whatever. And so here's the outline, Odie.
Yeah.
There's like several sections, and maybe I have a timer on here. So I don't know
Okay.
if we should spend max 10 minutes or like 7 minutes per section, but there's like maybe 6 to 7 sections. The following sections are strategic thinking, decision
Hmm.
making, risk management, adaptability, time management, uh,
Let me share my screen so that you
and
can just be,
continuous improvement and attention
or,
to
may,
detail.
or maybe you should share your screen, right? Yeah,
Yeah, I
try.
can.
Okay, share your screen so you can just be going over the blog post, and just, we can just have a conversation about it.
Yeah. So let me try to find it. Post. I see a copy paste error.
Or should I share my screen and then you can read it from my screen?
I mean, I'm there now. We could edit it
Okay.
later.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right, so I'm about to share my screen.
All right, go for it.
You see it?
Yes, I see it. 1 second. Yay. All right. So
Okay.
you can you increase the font a bit?
Was it Control Plus?
Yes. Yes, that's not. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
So
So
Odie,
mhm,
I I went ahead and I asked ChatGPT what are the similarities between building software and the game of chess, and really software development and the game of chess. And ChatGPT spat out probably 7 to 8 bullet points and a paragraph for each one on what they have in common.
mm,
And so I went ahead and just took the response from ChatGPT and I just dumped it into my technical blog and published it. The title is Comparing Software Development to the Game of Chess. And here are some of the sections that ChatGPT had stated, which I think is pretty good. One
okay.
is strategic thinking,
Mm-hmm,
the other is decision management. I'm sorry, decision making. The other is risk management. There's a section on adaptability.
mm-hmm,
There's a section on time management
mm-hmm,
when you're playing with clocks. There's a section that was provided on continuous improvement.
mm-hmm.
There's a section on attention to detail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that was the last section. So there's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, I think, just scanning it. And that's a lot of content for us to go section by section over.
Mm.
So maybe we should put a time constraint of, I don't know, if 7 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes is fine.
All right. Strategic thinking. I'm starting the clock now.
Okay.
So, one of the things that software development has in common with chess is strategic thinking. And basically, to quote ChatGPT, it shared its opinion saying that in regards to strategic thinking, chess is a game of strategy. And software development requires a similar mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Stakeholders can learn to think strategically by considering long term goals, anticipating potential obstacles, and planning ahead to achieve desired outcomes. You have anything to add
Yes.
to that, Odie?
Yes. So I agree with that. The strategic thinking part, you can't really do anything. Uh, so here's the thing with software engineering. It's like you need to be you need to be able to see. Remember when we had the conversation, I think in the previous video about software engineering, and we said something about being able to identify areas of volatility.
Yeah, that was our
That's
project planning video.
Yes, the project planning video
It's right
exactly.
here.
Yeah, right here. So so the project planning part of identifying areas of volatility is the strategic. I'm trying to learn how to have an American accent, but I'll try. It's part of being strategic, right? Being able to identify, to forecast, see the future, identify areas that could become more or less difficult to change down the line, and then adapting your design to fit those situations. So yeah, that's pretty much a good part of strategic thinking.
Okay. I don't really have
Yeah.
anything to add on to it. It's, I think the section that ChatGPT spat out, it's there. And when I'm
Hmm.
playing chess, that's something that ultimately in the game of chess, we want to capture the king, right?
Hmm.
That's what we get graded on. Everything
Yeah.
else is tactics. Everything
True.
else are the implementation details or the execution, but
Hmm.
we're not really graded on execution. We're graded on outcomes when it comes to capitalism. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That's right. So
Okay.
next one, decision making.
So for decision making, I'm not sure how to reset this timer. For decision making, let me just go ahead and read it.
Hmm.
Chess players face numerous decisions throughout a game, and software development stakeholders encounter similar situations.
Hmm.
Chess teaches the importance of making well informed decisions based on available information and analyzing potential consequences before taking action.
That is
Yeah.
correct as well. So that also applies. I think it's still related to strategic thinking, decision making as well in chess. Because if you're building software, if you're designing software, you have to make trade-offs. You have to figure out what set of trade-offs, what set of decisions I can make at any particular stage, and how does it affect the rest of the system or the rest of the application. In chess, it's even more concrete. The ideas are even more concrete. At any given position, you have something called candidate moves. So, candidate moves are what are the different moves I can play. Of course, the number of moves you can play are like can be numerous. You can get 50, 70 different kinds of moves you can play, maybe after move three or so. But more importantly, is out of those forest of moves, how can I narrow down the sets of moves that are really, really good for the position, right? Making those considerations, making a proper decision, and picking. One misconception with chess is, oh, people can just you can just make decisions by feel. You easily lose to somebody who thinks strategically. Remember strategic thinking. Yeah, so making good decisions is one of the hallmarks, is one of the things that chess teaches you, right? How to, even under intense pressure, narrow down your set of candidate moves and use some form of heuristics to decide which move you want to take, right? The same thing applies to software engineering as well.
Yeah, I think the thing that I appreciate about this section on decision making
Hmm.
is you're making well-informed decisions based on the data that's provided.
Correct.
Odie, I don't know how many times I try to remind middle managers that we should make decisions on data that we have.
Mm.
Not on gut feelings, but
Mm.
take the data and take the pain points in the past, identify the patterns that contributed to them, and make decisions based on that. And
Correct.
in chess, we have calculations, right?
Hmm.
Calculations is based on the data that's available,
Yeah.
and you figure out how many factors are involved with each move, or at least the amount of moves that you can cognitively load in your mind, and then you make a
Mm.
decision the best way that you can with the data that you have.
Mm.
Okay.
Of course. Yes.
Next
So
section. Oh,
next section, risk management.
risk management. In both chess and software development, risks exist and need to be managed effectively. Chess players assess risks associated with each move, considering potential vulnerabilities and counter moves. Similarly, stakeholders must identify and mitigate risks throughout the software development process, ensuring timely resolution of issues. I mean, this is pretty much what we talked about in the decision making part. I'm not sure if there's anything
Yeah.
else to add on to it.
I would disagree a little bit with what ChatGPT said here. So chess players aren't taking risk because there is full is chess is a game of full information, right? Risk only applies in games of partial information, like poker, for example. Those That's when you take risks. In chess, there is no risk involved, right? There's this
There
thing
is
that
risk
happens.
involved, Odie.
No, the
If
Okay, give me an example.
it's the human factor. You can't predict the human behavior of what they want to do because it's at times not logical.
Correct, but hmm, so with chess, you aren't even supposed to predict what the opponent will play. You're supposed to play the best move, and you have to consider the best move of the opponent. There is no risk involved, right? Does that make sense? If
Okay.
anytime the opponent plays anything other than the best move, it increases your advantage, right? That's why I said it's a game of full information. You two have access to the same set of information. There is nothing on the board that is hidden, so there's no need for risk, right? Risk is when you don't have full information. That's when you take risks to say, okay, I don't know about, and in fact, that's one way they differ. Software engineering and chess, right? In chess, you have full information. In software engineering, you don't have full information. So yeah, this is ChatGPT hallucinating.
Yeah, maybe because I'm new to chess.
Hmm.
When I read this section of risk management, the first thing I thought about are the times where you purposely sacrifice your queen or your rook or your
Mm,
jack or I keep saying jack for knight, your knight or
yeah.
your bishop,
Hmm.
because there is a high likelihood that you're going to gain material. Um,
So
okay,
let's go back again. It's not You're not sacrificing your queen because there is a high likelihood. You only sacrifice your queen when there is a concrete understanding as to how that sacrifice is going to give you returns. If the sacrifice isn't giving going to give you returns, then it's not a sacrifice, it's just a blunder, right?
it is.
So yeah, so whenever like good players are playing and they sacrifice their queen, there is a concrete idea behind it. So if you ask them, why did you sacrifice your queen here? They will tell you precisely, I did this because I have other pieces. It opens up the king. There are heuristics involved, and sometimes sacrificing your queen is a way to, because there are more powerful principles that are overshadowing. It's almost like principles in life, right? So what goes up must come down. That is true, but aeroplanes can go up and not come down because they operate on a higher principle, right? Principle of lift,
Yeah.
um and so on and so forth. Yeah.
So this reminds me of the tests are broken. Oh, we don't have time to figure out why they're broken. We don't have time to even fix the test. We just have to move forward. How often does that
Yeah,
happen?
that
would,
happens.
would would that be risk management, Odie?
Well, don't do that, folks. Don't do that at home. But yeah, I would say it's those things are a lot more those there's a lot more I have a lot more empathy for people who think that way in software engineering because like I said, software engineering isn't it's not a full information kind of game. In fact, like we discussed, if you remember during the last video, I said something. I said that more often than not, with a new software project, you're trying to build something that that has never been built before. Your team has never built it before. It has never existed, right? So it's almost like you're going to a country you don't know. You don't know how long it's going to take to get there. There's a lot of variables involved. So yes, risk management is one of a good tenets in software engineering, but it doesn't apply to chess because chess is full information.
Okay. Let's move
Yeah.
on to adaptability.
Okay.
Chess requires players to adapt to their strategies based on their opponent's moves.
Hmm.
Similarly, in software development, stakeholders should be open to adjusting plans, embracing change, and accommodating user feedback to create more successful outcomes. Huh.
Yes. This is pretty much the whole point of agile, right? And this is very very similar to chess, right? So you can have multiple plans, but it's based on whatever the your opponent plays, then you have to adapt your strategy. So the best players, the grandmasters for example, their moves always have three or four motifs attached to those moves, right? So when they play a move, there are three or four ideas attached to it. So depending on the response of the opponent, they can pick a different strategy or a different plan on the fly, and they can adapt to the play of the opponent. So yes, this definitely applies to chess. This also applies to software engineering as well, in the sense that if you have projects and there are new requirements, there are new information that comes to light, the customer wants something slightly different, being able to adapt your design, adapt your coding, adapt your processes to suit the new realities, right? That is also the hallmark of a good software engineer.
So,
Yeah.
what I've learned in trying to launch, not even launch, trying to prepare a tech startup
Hmm.
as a business, I remember on Y Combinator, one of the personalities had stated that try your utmost to do the 10% of work that
Hmm.
delivers 90% of the results, right? And that's something
Mm,
that stuck with me. Odie, I have a habit of trying to attach my name to the perfect design, the perfect model, the perfect abstraction.
mm,
Because, I mean, I like to stand behind my work. I like to admire how smart I think I am. Um, but am I or are we measured on the details of how we got there, or are we measured on did we get there or not? And it's the latter
mm,
part. We're measured on the outcomes. And so, especially with the tech project that I've been working on,
mhm,
man, I'm seeing all these opportunities to. I don't really need to refactor this this database table. I just need to add another column, even though it looks a lot cleaner. If I rethink the design and take the next 3 weeks doing it and refactoring all the code that maps to it, no, just
mhm.
add this one column right here, and
Yeah.
and we're done. So that's what I learned from it: time management in regards to
Okay.
outcomes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the same thing applies as well in software engineering. You may have a winning position, but if you run out of time, you lose. You may have a well architected, well designed project, but if you are not able to launch in time, you also lose as well. Your competitor could beat you to it. So being able to realize that, I could spend 30 minutes trying to figure out the best move, or I can figure out, a move that, gives me most of the benefits, and I can quickly calculate, right? Sometimes the optimal strategy to follow, which is part of the reason why there are different ratings for different time formats in chess, because the amount of time you have does affect the quality of your game, but it should, right? Because if you don't want to lose on time, you have to make decisions quickly. And of course, the resolution of those decisions won't be high quality, but that's okay.
We have another section, continuous improvement. Chess players strive for continual improvement by studying their games, analyzing strategies, and learning from their mistakes. Software development stakeholders can adopt a similar mindset, embracing a culture of continuous learning, seeking feedback, and incorporating lessons from previous projects to enhance future outcomes.
Mm,
Spot on.
spot on.
What can
Yeah.
you not disagree with on that section?
No, no, that section is pretty much self-explanatory, right? Because even with, so there are many layers. It's correct on so many layers, but I can just give you one example. Is the idea of having the perfect solution, the perfect software deployed at the very first time. Remember we had this whole conversation of big design up front, settling down, planning out a whole application, and then deploying it as one fell swoop and it working for everybody. That never happens. Instead, what happens is you deploy a small kernel, then you improve upon it, add new features, and keep improving upon it until you get the fully mature thing. So the same thing applies to chess as well. You learn you learn one or two openings, you improve on those openings, and then as time goes on, you take on more openings as well. Even from a player standpoint, right? Don't expect to become good at the game, right? Your goal should be continuous gradual improvement. Okay, you learn a little new things about the game, you play people on your level, and so on and so forth. You don't just dive into the deep end and try to play against grandmasters, because there's no amount of there's no there is no witchcraft that will make you defeat a grandmaster. It's never going to happen. Yeah. So that's the continuous improvement. The same thing applies to gymming, exercise, bodybuilding, and so on and so forth. Continuous improvement, right? Is you start from where you are, you make small adjustments, and you improve. It applies to a lot of things in life. So yeah.
I find it interesting that you said that there is no witchcraft when playing against a grandmaster.
Yep.
There's no recorded history of a major upset with someone that's significantly rated lower than a grandmaster, or they never provide a platform for those two to even compete in the first place.
So normally they don't even provide the platform, but even if they did, right? What tends to happen is if someone is able to defeat somebody that is way higher rated than them, it shows that that other person, the person we call the underdog, their rating isn't a reflection of their playing strength, right? It usually happens with children who get into the game of chess, who are who are prodigies. Prodigies is the right word. It usually happens with prodigies, right? So somebody is a prodigy, then that person will constantly be performing above their rated level. But those kind of growth, right? That kind of growth isn't the difference in rating isn't much, right? So maybe the difference in rating may be like maybe a 300, 400 difference elo points rating at worst, right? But there was this guy, Max, I can't remember his name. There was a guy who is this, uh, he's this, people that do motivational speech about accelerated learning. I don't know if you know about him. So he wanted to learn chess in a week and defeat Magnus Carlsen. And they played, obviously, and Magnus Carlsen, like the first 3, 4 moves were decent, and then Magnus just tore him apart. So, so, so yeah, like, so because a good analogy to that is tug of war, and that's pretty much what chess is. Chess is a game of tug of war, right? Each move that is played is an opportunity for one party to steer the game to the direction of winning or losing. So there are three options that happen in the game of chess. There is draw in the middle, there is win, and there is loss at two extremes, right? Every move that is played is moving the game towards either a draw or a loss for one party, or a draw or a win for the other party. Now, if you're playing with someone who is far stronger than you, what happens is as you people play moves, every move they make is pushing the game with much more force towards their advantage. And the more time goes on, the more difficult it gets to be able to turn the game around. In fact, it's so terrifying that even if a game is being won, even if let's say I start playing a game and I'm winning, right? Or sorry, I'm losing to maybe a slightly higher rated player than myself. So if a much higher rated player should take over the game from where I stopped, that much higher rated player could totally swing the game back into the favor of one person, right? So that's why I said that, if you're playing someone who's of a higher rating, the odds that you will even get a sneak win is almost zero, right? Depending on how high the person's rating is. So if there is like a 1,000 points rating, there is no way in hell you're winning. You could play 100 games and it wouldn't make a difference, right? So yeah, you're on mute.
This last section is attention to detail.
Mm-hmm.
In chess, every move and position on the board can have significant consequences. Similarly, software development stakeholders must have a keen eye for detail to ensure the quality and reliability of the software that they are involved in. Attention to detail encompasses meticulously reviewing code, conducting thorough testing, and scrutinizing requirements to identify potential issues or bugs. By maintaining a meticulous approach, stakeholders can catch and rectify errors early in the development cycle, leading to more robust and reliable software solutions. Attention to detail also extends to user experience, where stakeholders should pay careful attention to user interface design, accessibility, and usability to create a seamless and intuitive experience for end users.
Yeah. So this is pretty much self-explanatory. Attention to detail, very important software engineering. I can't tell you how many times a null reference exception has taken down mega apps. I can't tell you how many times a semicolon has broken builds. Little things like that.
I
But
can't tell
also,
you how many
yeah,
times I get tunnel vision on my queen or their queen or their jack because jacks they're just so unorthodox to me
night.
on the board,
Yeah.
and I get tunnel vision on a coordinate or no, I'm sorry, not coordinate, a quadrant of the
Mm,
chessboard,
yes.
and then lo and behold, I go ahead and make my calculated move, and I see on the edge of the bottom of the chessboard a bishop that I just I just it was outside of my scope. I had tunnel
Yeah.
vision. I did not
Yeah.
see it. And it
Hmm.
forces you, this is what I like about the game of chess as I'm learning and developing. It it encourages you to remember how you felt the last game you lost and how that I'm not going to let that happen again. And then it
Yeah.
happens again, but it doesn't happen the next game. It happens the game after the next game, right? And so that's the
Yeah.
part where I really enjoy the game because it forces me to pay attention to all the details and triple guess myself whenever I'm
Mm,
making a calculated move.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. The same thing applies to software engineering and chess as well. For me, it's more about, so like I've used this statement before in a chess game, right? A pawn at the edge of the board may seem insignificant, but sacrificing, there are many scenarios where it makes more sense to sacrifice the queen for a pawn, right? Because that pawn, you know, influences how the rest of the game plays out. Little things like that. And that attention to detail is something that you learn very quickly when you start learning the game of chess. There's no way around it. It's the difference between winning and losing more often than not. Even playing the right move, but if you play the right move but a tempo late, right? If you wait a little too, waiting a move to play the right move makes all the difference in the world. Little details like that. So yeah, that's the gist of it.
Okay, those were the sections. Is there anything to summarize what we just discussed before we move on to a
Yeah,
closer?
yeah. I think aside from the risk management bullet point, I think everything is pretty much spot on. I would really recommend that software engineers, take a look at the game of chess. You will learn a lot, even if you're not a software engineer, even if you're just a regular person. It teaches a lot, like a lot of life lessons. For example, not to get too complacent or overconfident when you are winning. I can't tell you how many times I was winning. I knew I was winning, and out of excitement, I played the wrong move and I lost. Right, it happens a lot. So
I was trying to explain the game to someone a couple of days ago, in which
mhm,
I described it as a puzzle set that you're competing some against someone with, in which
mm,
imagine like a game of Tetris, except it's one-on-one competition with another human mind,
yeah,
and you're solving these puzzles that aggregate to an end game by the final puzzle of how do you checkmate this king.
yeah,
And it's just for someone that is just addicted to competition and feels good by basically, I don't know, dominating other people, and that's how they boost their self-esteem. It's
mm,
addictive, right?
yeah,
That's my personality. Like I have to dominate to feel good about myself, and it's something that I keep losing at. And well, I
mm,
won't say I keep losing at because I don't really play human beings. I just keep playing the same bot Antonio on chess.com, who's rated 1500. Now I've only won like one game against this bot, but it's
mm,
make long story short, it keeps me focused and it keeps me training my mind on how to evolve and how to stop making the same mistakes every third game.
mm,
And that's the
mm.
part that I'll just reemphasize. Like you make a mistake, Odie, and you say, "No, I'm not going to let that happen next game." Because the conditions don't occur the next game for that to happen. It happens
Yeah,
like 3 or 4 games afterwards
yeah.
when you're talking about the previous game, game 3, where you're like, I'm not going to let that happen either. And you just keep fixating on the last game instead of like 3 games ago where it did happen. And that's the part where I just keep getting hung up.
Yeah, so my advice to you there would be to focus on the motifs, right? Focus on,
You got to define what a motif is.
I'll explain, like patterns. That's a
Okay.
motif, right? A motif is a pattern. You see, um, there are certain sub scenarios that occur in the game of chess, and that forms a motif, right? And when you learn that motif, then next time when you see something similar, it gives you an opportunity to think about that motif, right?
Uh, that's it. I don't really have anything else to add. I think we did a decent job trying to provide an argument of how there's parallels between chess and software development in regards to what they have
Hmm.
in common.
Yeah.
I really like the point about or the idea of how one loses in chess isn't that much different than how people
Yeah.
lose a software project.
Hmm.
So
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So if you like this episode, just give us your feedback. We'd like to hear your comments. We really appreciate it. And yeah, that's it for me. Anything, Scott?
like, share, subscribe, and I'm available for consulting. So reach out. I specialize in mobile development using Xamarin, cloud development using Azure, and functional programming if you really care about a paradigm for building systems. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. All right. So thank you very much. Bye.
Peace.